All right, everyone, welcome to the JumpX podcast, episode 48. Right, Tom? Yeah,
Mhm.
episode 48. All right, we've got a special guest on today. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Alex ARDIZZONE. Thanks for having me on the pod, guys.
I just got you to do that because I didn't want to butcher your last name, bro.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, so I wanted to make
Italian.
sure we got that right. We got that set from the start. But before we jump into the podcast, guys, if you guys are looking to jump high, you guys are looking for training, click the link in our Instagram bio. You can apply for coaching there. All right. But today, I guess today is a very interesting case because you didn't start jumping and jump training and stuff until later in life, right?
Yeah, so just a background, I guess, on me. I never played organized basketball. I did win like a 3-on-3 tournament with not that many teams in college. So I did play basketball a little bit. I would do mostly pickup games. Um, Back in my early 20s, like I may have tipped in a dunk maybe a couple times. I don't even know if it was legitimate or not, to be honest with you. But I know I definitely wasn't consistent. And I would say most people at that time would be like, yeah, I don't think he can dunk, but maybe it's possible I dunked a few times. But I started training around 27, and wasn't very hard at first, but slowly ramped up and got my first dunk, I'd say, about a month before I turned 29. So I was 28, just about to be 29 at dunk camp in 2019, actually.
Yeah.
And now, fast forward to today, I've got over a 40-inch vertical. I've tested 43.5 on two different occasions, and have hit a ton of dunks since like that first basic dunk at dunk camp, which was really shitty, by the way. Like, probably not everyone would count it. Yeah, I have a video I could send you guys too. You could, I don't know, put it in somewhere or something.
Which
But
court
yeah,
was it on? Which ring was it on? Was it on the one that everyone else got their first dunk on?
so it was like, so in 2019, we were at a different training facility, so the rims were different, but it was a legit 10. And Jordan Kilgannon threw me the lob, and it like bounced around in there and like went higher than the rim at one point, but then fell back through. But I still was like over it and pushed it down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was a dunk. It was just like half the crowd like celebrated, and half the crowd was like, oh, like didn't really know what to do because it was just kind of ugly. Unfortunately, not everyone's first dunk is pretty, but yeah. Oh, and I'm also 32 now. I just turned 32.
That's insane. Like, I think the insane thing is that you hit your first dunk at 28, 29, right?
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of
Yeah.
people do that. And it just goes to show that, a lot of people, they come up with the excuse, oh, I'm too old, I can't do this, and can't, can't do it anymore. I can't progress athletically, right? And you're just
Mhm.
an example and a case of like, that's really, not true. Like, you're 32 right now, still getting more athletic, still hitting new dunks, still progressing, right? And you're probably going to continue to do so for like quite some time as well. And I think that's just like part of why we got you on this podcast like right now. Is just I just think that's so interesting, and I think that's going to help motivate a lot of people that are older, right? That haven't hit their first dunk, just hearing about you and your story as well. So
Yeah. I almost feel like people like get this notion in their head that like after age like 25, that basically like if they haven't dunked by then, they never can. And now over 30, still jumping higher. It's just crazy. Like, I think when I was that 28, 29, my full approach was like 35-inch vertical. And like this last dunk camp, I got a PR for standing vertical of 40, I believe, somewhere around there. So,
yeah,
and
so
like
what
obviously full approach 43.5. So,
Okay.
yeah, so your measurements, so like what's your height, weight, all that sort of stuff, and like reach, everything.
yeah. So I'm like a hair under 6'1", without shoes. So like a dunker height, they always go lower. I'd be like 6 foot. Um, and my reach is not great at all. Partially because I broke my elbow, a bone in my elbow at one point, but it's 7'8", but like I feel like it should be a little bit higher than that because I can't fully extend it. So it should be like 7'9", 7'10", but yeah, so 7'8" is my standing reach.
Is that in your right elbow?
Yeah, right elbow, which is I'm right-handed.
Yeah. So your left would be more in theory. Your left should be higher reach.
Yeah, left should be higher reach. So like if I wanted to, maybe I could like play around with like going for the vertec and seeing if I could touch higher with my left hand since I can extend it a little better. But I just gravitate towards the right arm, and I guess I'd have to like adjust my standing reach too. So it'd probably be about the same anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a left-right jumper, and you dunk
Yep.
with your right hand mostly. Hey,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that because I find that so awkward. Like, because I'm the same approach. Using my right hand, I find so awkward, and I definitely don't jump aside. That's why you see me use my left hand a lot. So, but a lot of guys, like even like Isaiah, that's how well, he doesn't do it so much now because of injuries and stuff. But that's how he started, and a lot of guys, um, jump in that sort of way. So yeah, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I always go back and forth on like what's the most like optimal because I don't know, like you've got people like Michael Jordan who are right, left, right-handed, and it just looks like so many dunks are easier maybe that way, or like if I was left hand, maybe certain things would be easier. But because I'm right-handed, I do feel that there are some dunks that are like, I'm more beneficial for because I'm like left, right-handed.
360 East Bay is one, a good example.
What that's easy.
Gosh, I don't know because well, like Isaiah, like he has to rotate a little more, I think, if you're left, right-handed. And like you can see guys sometimes doing that 360 where they almost do like a 180 because it's like
Yeah,
right,
like on the ground
you
already.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas mine, I feel like I actually have to rotate more. But like for example, like 360 scoop, I feel like is easier if you're left, right-handed versus left-handed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know for like a 360 windmill, like even just doing a spin dunk in general, like, it's way easier for me using my right hand than my left. Just with like spin
Oh,
dunk.
okay. Yeah.
Like doing a 360 windmill with my left hand, I'm pretty sure I have to do it the Vince Carter way.
Right.
Tom?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it would be more difficult to do that sort of dunk if I was to use my left hand, but like right-handed doing it, like it wasn't the best one, but I did hit a 360 windmill with my right hand. It was definitely like easier to do it with the right hand. So I don't know if you've found that as well with your approach doing.
Yeah, with the windmills, I have found that that it is easier, but
Hmm.
I don't know. You see people liking different things. Like I think like for example, Shankar Iyer Go Higher. He jumps exactly like me, left, right-handed, but he prefers the J Rich East Bay, even though it's a left-hand finish.
Yeah, I did
Uh,
see that. That's really interesting.
yeah, like I think
Yeah,
he hits that way more consistently than like a regular East Bay.
that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's weird.
This is supposed to be the other way around. Like, guys, like
Yeah.
anyone that's listening that doesn't know like a crazy amount about dunking, which I'm sure most of you like do know, but for those of you that don't, like a Jay Rich is like hitting an East Bay with like your opposite leg, right? So it's like harder. So to
No,
do,
yeah.
yeah. So like it should be the other way around, but
Well, I'd say
anyway,
99% of people hit their first normal East Bay before they hit J Rich.
Right.
yeah. Well, like how many times have you East Bay Tom versus Jay Rich?
Exactly.
Like you East Bay like every session consistently, but
No,
like Jay Rich is like once every 20 sessions.
yeah. The last time I hit it was like 2 sessions ago.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't go for it as much as I do East Bay. So
Um,
Nice.
it's harder. So
Congrats on that under belt, by the way.
thank you.
So
Thank
sick.
you.
Yeah. And like I sometimes I visualize like what it would be like to just hit an East Bay, which I've gotten so close if you guys
I
follow along.
I thought you
Uh,
did. I thought you did.
so I backrimmed the shit out of it, and basically it came out recently on, a little above 910 is brutal. I've done that now several times, like recently, like since doing it, I've like tried to East Bay and like I've just backrimmed it. It's hard. Your hands are moving so quick that it's easy to backrim that dunk, I feel like, but gotten super close. But yeah, anyways, I was just saying like Tom's reaction is like exactly how I picture my reaction like going before that video even came out.
Like I can relate, bro. I understand.
Yeah.
Tom like started crying when he hit you on the boat, right? And like if like when I e-speed, that's exactly probably gonna be my reaction as well. And I'm sure when you e-speed, it's gonna be your reaction as well. Because it's such a big mountain to climb initially. Like if you've never hit that dunk before, it's such a huge mountain to climb. And I feel like once you climb that mountain, it just kind of like it's just like downhill, opens up so many opportunities from there. But it's just initially climbing that mountain of hitting your first East Bay is like it's fucked. For lack of a better term. So like it's a grind, but once you hit it, dude, like yeah, it's gonna be so hype and like I feel like it's just gonna open a window, open a doorway for you that you're just gonna go downhill, like you're just gonna progress so much because like it's kind of like once you hit your first windmill and you get a feel for it, like it's somewhat of a technical dunk when you're first starting. It's kind of like when you hit that dunk, it opens up more opportunity for you. Like, I don't know if you felt like that when you hit your first windmill.
Yeah. And for like the listeners, for those who don't know, like oftentimes, like when you're learning a dunk, like there's almost like a gateway. And as soon as you kind of get that unlock and you hit it, it's like you have felt the motions before. And so
Mm.
typically you hit that dunk more frequently and more frequently because you're used to the movements and know what it feels like to finish it. And so yeah, it was definitely like that for my windmill as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, bro. So like another point here is you actually won your first contest recently as well,
Yeah.
which is
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so that was crazy. First dunk contest for money. And so I flew up to Seattle as well as Ire. And it was for a brand called the Show Up, which is in Seattle, which is where I'm from. And there was actually some, really good dunkers out there too. Not as well known, I would say, unless you're like in the dunk community, you may have heard of these people, but everyone was a dunker. And after watching a lot of their clips, I felt like, I was in maybe the bottom tier of that dunk list of like those dunkers, but um, kind of just like I like put that out of my mind and just kind of focused on me and like what I can do and I
Mm.
know what I can do and just like be good for myself, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Do you like remember off the top of your head who was in the contest?
Um, so we had Shankar Iyer, who's 6'5", and if you don't know, like he jumps high for his height, especially. And for him, it's just kind of like a hand speed thing. Like I think he could be one of the best dunkers like in the next few years, if he continues like at the rate he's been going. So
Mm.
we had him. We had Meeks, which he jumps so high. He could get his head above the rim. And I think he got his head above the rim a couple of times on this 10 feet outdoor rim that the contest was on. Um, and then there were a few 1 foot guys. Andrew's one. I mean, you'd have to go to my page. I've tagged them all if you want to see who was all in there. But yeah, there was about six guys, and I had been fans of most of them for a while, like prior. And I had dunked with some, but others not. But I've been a fan of basically everyone who I went against, which was kind of crazy.
Did you get that same reaction when you first went to dunk camp, like seeing all the dunkers in person? Did you get that like that shock factor?
I think so, because there's like a couple guys who I had never seen I'd never seen anyone jump that high and do that technical dunks. And so I think Isaiah was coming off injury that first dunk camp. So like for some reason he didn't stand out to me, but other years obviously he has. He's like insane. Probably one of the highest jumpers. But that particular year in 2019, Jay Clark and Jordan Kilgannon arguably were like in their prime. Like I would say like both of them got 49.5 on the Vertec that year. And I remember them hitting like crazy technical dunks, like, holy shit, like people do this. And like Jordan Kilgannon is like just a little tiny bit taller than me. And so like seeing someone, you know, my height ish doing insane dunks really like motivated me for sure. Like
Yeah.
made me think it was possible, you know what I mean?
Yeah, seeing that 49.5 in person was crazy.
Yeah.
How high
It's
that
absolutely
was.
insane.
Yeah.
You guys both impressed me too, by the way. But you know, I had seen you guys online, and so I figured you guys would be pretty good. But it's always like, all right, how are they going to fare when everyone's on the same court, like in this one setting where you know people aren't getting a lot of rest, and especially for you guys, like flying over so far, like for those who don't know, like that's basically like a death sentence for your vertical because you're just, you know, locked in a chair flying for hours on end. Like there's nothing worse for your tendons and muscles probably. So to see you guys go off, even like with that being said, like that was insane. And so that was pretty cool too.
Awesome.
I
Great shit.
appreciate it, man. It was cool seeing you go off in the like the show as well at the
The
high school.
show, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you were
It was
jumping
it
high
was like
then.
the it was like I was somewhat struggling throughout the camp this year. I will say like getting older, it's a little bit tougher to figure out like deloads and that sort of deal to like peak essentially, I feel. And for whatever reason, the first few days I kind of struggled, and then right at that show I started flying like, you know, almost got my head to the 10-foot rim, and then obviously punched that windmill, handoff windmill. Felt amazing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because that rim was like legit tan and everything like that, and it was crazy that it was at the end of the week as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially after like an entire week of jumping like super regularly. Like, I think the environment would have played a big part as well. Just the adrenaline and all that sort of stuff would have helped a lot too. Like having the crowd and all that. You know, like I think a lot of people underestimate how much environment can influence your vertical as well. Like just having a
Mm-hmm.
high environment with a lot of adrenaline going, like that's where you're gonna jump your best, not by yourself in a gym, you know, in dead
Yeah, I have
silence.
a little side note I want to add. This applies
Yeah.
to like every athlete, but you know, JumpX guys, if you're listening to this, it's almost impossible to compare yourself at like a contest, dunk show, dunk event. Never compare that version of yourself to just like some random session during the week in an empty gym. Like even if you're deloaded in the empty gym, you're probably gonna even jump higher with a crowd, even if you weren't deloaded, just because of the adrenaline environment. So it's very easy to get caught up like, oh, I'm not jumping, da da da. But unless you're in that exact environment again, it's almost impossible to recreate that like situation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like going off that, like I feel like it's really easy for people to feel like they're not making progress, but like you have to evaluate your peaks to like your peaks. So like you gotta, if you're deloaded and have a hype environment, you know, you can't compare that session by yourself in the gym to that because like there's so many factors that are like influencing you to jump amazing. You gotta, you know, compare your peaks to your peaks, kind of like what I said.
Caffeine levels too. If you take a
Yeah.
thousand milligrams of caffeine one day, then 200 the next dunk day, then you cannot compare that at all. So
Right.
that's a
Actually,
big factor.
Or if
I've
you're Tom dry scooping like four spoonfuls of pre-workout.
Yeah.
sent that video.
Huh?
I haven't seen that video. I just I
Oh,
know.
I thought someone sent it to you.
I mean, I feel like every time I watch you before, like, or you'll post your story like before a dunk session, it'll be like you in a car listening to some very heavy electronic music, dry scooping some pre-workout.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Tom.
yeah,
No, yeah, they have like a group of guys that do that, but like
yeah.
before every dunk session on a Saturday, they'll sit in the car for like 30 minutes blasting hardstyle, drinking pre-workout. It's pretty funny. But anyways, getting back to this contest, man.
Yeah.
Like how did you win it? Like what are your tips? How did you win it? And how did you beat all these guys?
Um, so again, I kind of ran my own race, sort of like a me versus me mentality, like where I'm trying to perform the dunks I know I can hit, um, like in the past, but just make sure I execute them well. And then I'd also say like I wanted to like level up each dunk I did to try to have like the judges want like to see what I do next. Like if each time I'm improving, I feel like it's like, whoa, what's he going to do next dunk if he went from this to that? Um, so I would say that. And then I think like in dunk contests, like it's interesting. Like it's a little bit of a chess match. Like if someone does a dunk, you know, you have a twist to it that is like the same but better. Sometimes like doing something like that, like it's like, you know, the judges go, oh shit, he just did what the last guy did, but like with the twist and it was even better. So like just stuff like that. I also I'll just go through some of the dunks. Like one thing that was like a change up in my strategy. So like one of the easiest dunks I do, and one I see you doing a lot, Austin, is like off the backboard stuff. But I noticed like in a contest setting, I'd be like so amped up that sometimes my pass off the backboard would just be trash, even if I jump super high. And so I switched it up to do like just a tomahawk as hard as I can, like off the dribble, just to show people that I can do dunks off the dribble. And like I tend to jump higher without the ball. So a lot of my other dunks, like going forward, I would try to like utilize that strength by doing handoffs or double ups or stuff like that. And I also did one or two dunks for the first time, which was pretty sweet. I had like Shunker hold the ball and basically stand under the rim and bounce it, kind of duck, and then I jumped over him and finished it, which was pretty cool. So no push off there. So I wanted to show people I can jump over people like without push offs too. And then I also did like a double up X, which it was probably my cleanest ever. You can see it on my Instagram. And then like one dunk I had never done before was a double up windmill, and that was like the last dunk I did to win it essentially.
How did you
But you,
hold it? For the
what?
for the double up windmill, did they hold it on their head or did they kind of just hold it like?
They held it on their head.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they did that, and it's kind of if you're right-handed, if you're right-handed, like maybe Austin can try it. It is weird doing a windmill sometimes off of like a double up setting. I feel like in that just the way the motions are, you kind of have to fight certain things to get it to go around like that.
Yeah, I've never done it,
It
but
is
like when I've
like
seen people do windmills like that, it's not like a full like clean rotation because you're having to jump over someone
mhm,
as well. So like
mhm.
it still looks cool, but it doesn't look like a or if you were to like lob it and then get a full like circular like motion, I've noticed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I just want to call out, I guess, is that you want to hit dunks that you know you can hit consistently enough that, like, with adrenaline, you should be good to go. And I feel like some people in contests go for like their most technical dunk that they've only hit a couple times, and that can kind of really kill you because if you miss, you're basically screwed in a contest setting for the most part. So some people
Yeah.
would get themselves out by missing a dunk during a certain round.
Someone I've noticed is really good at that I've seen is Chris Staples. Like he just has like go-to dunks that he knows he can hit.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the contests I've watched him do, he always goes to those dunks he knows he can hit. and ends up doing pretty well most of the time. So that's definitely
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say like with Chris Staples, like he's got he's got a lot of dunks obviously, but like he's got like 8 contest dunks that he's mastered. Like it's just like they're really technical, but he's worked on just those so much that it's like he could do it in his sleep with his eyes closed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not missing them.
No, which is cool. Like, and
That
it's
yeah.
rare that someone can 360 East Bay like in their sleep like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like when I think of him, that's the dunk I think of. That 360 ace off dribble.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to do it off dribble, I feel like adds so much consistency as well because you're not having to worry about a lob where like the surface can be different, the ball can be different, a lot of factors can be different that can throw off things a little bit. Whereas if you can do it off dribble, it adds so much more consistency. Like you were saying with like the backboard as well. You know, sometimes it can be difficult to get the lob off backboard right, unless
Mm-hmm.
you're an absolute freak. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. Um, okay, so obviously, like you starting at an older age and starting vert training at an older age, what are some of your major tips for athletes that are starting at an older age or are at an older age to ensure they keep progressing, they stay injury free? Like, what have you noticed with yourself starting at an older age, like in terms of limitations and things you have to implement and do? Like, I know you were talking a little bit before about deloading and stuff like that. So yeah, just touch on that, man.
Yeah, I think one of my I or some of my secrets, I guess, is like putting myself in the environment to want to like excel, like signing myself up for things like dunk camp or like, going for a dunk contest. Like if I know those things are coming up in a couple months, like it'll motivate me to train harder, I guess. There's more pressure to train harder versus just like, not doing any of those types of things. Like it's very easy, I guess, to just get set in your ways and like kind of hit the same weight a lot. But like if you've got something coming up, you'll motivate yourself to want to increase like your numbers and increase your workouts. Um, yeah. And then I would say like surrounding myself with like guys who are like good, also like on Instagram, just following those people. And then also like in real life, like trying to dunk with different dunkers and like just learn things from everyone, I guess you could say. And I always try to have a learning mindset, even, though I'm 32. Like I feel like a lot of people tend to be like, oh, I know everything about training sometimes if they're older or something like, but like you can really learn from, anyone, any age. So I've tried to have that. And then I try to focus on improving like a few key things like each cycle, like lifting cycle. And so like I do, I don't know, like 40-yard dash, maybe one cycle or power clean or squats, whatever it may be. And then keeping my knees healthy, I'd say, is the last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
What
had
do you think about like yourselves? Like would you agree with a lot of those things, or like has there been different things you guys want to touch on for you guys?
see like that's an interesting thing because like for myself, like obviously you're touching on like the subject of like, you know, having things to motivate you to push harder in your sessions and stuff. Like with myself, like I've constantly found I have the opposite sort of issue in the sense of like I'm always trying to like push too hard. So I have to
Mm,
like rate myself back constantly to ensure I don't get injured. In that sense, like that's just a personal thing for me. Because like
yeah.
there's been so many times where like I've overtrained or done too much or you know things like that. Because I always have this feeling of like feeling like I'm not doing enough, right? So
Yeah.
that's just like a that's where like I find that even people we train right on JumpX, like everyone's a little bit different. Like we have people that we have to rein back, like look, just follow the program. You don't need to do all this extra stuff, right? You know, you allow time for recovery, right? And there's other guys we have to push, motivate to do more. And that's where like people have different personalities in terms of how they approach their training. right? So for myself, I've had to like rein myself back and ensure I'm not doing too much, and then I'm like progressing at a slow, steady rate to ensure my body can keep adapting. Because I'm 26 now, right? Like obviously I'm not old, but I've
Yeah.
noticed the difference since I was 21. Like I definitely don't recover as fast. Definitely
Right.
don't recover as fast. Like versus when I was 21, right? So I've like that's something I've like especially like recent injuries with myself, I've had to hone in on and ensure that I'm not doing too much too fast, and I'm not rushing the process per se, right?
Like,
Staying disciplined in that way.
do you find yourself like, if you feel like you're not, I don't know, progressing one week or something, like you have a bad dunk sesh, like, do you find yourself like working out twice in one day and stuff like that to, you
No,
know?
no. It's not to that extreme.
Hmm.
Like I don't do anything like uh like that, right? Like I follow a structured program, cycle, everything like that. I just more like meaning in the terms of like say I squatted 120 kilos one week, right? Like the next week, like I could feel like I could do maybe 125, 130, but that might be too much of a jump for my body. Maybe my muscles could handle it, but my tendons couldn't adapt quick enough, and then that would lead me to get tendon pain or something like that, or maybe that's building up too low too quickly for my back or stuff like that. So I'm just meaning in the sense of like listening to those warning signs more and ensure
Yeah.
that I'm not rushing it. I'm like
Yeah.
taking time, thinking more in the long term. But look, I don't need to be doing this weight this week, right? I can do 122.5 instead of 125, and it's still progress, and there's going to be less chance of like being in pain the next day, right? And like so forth. Like recently, like for another example, I was jumping twice a week, but my body can't handle that right now. Like literally, I just can't like adapt quick enough. Like I start get very bad like quad tightness, overuse in the muscle, all that, and then it would be detrimental to my second session, right? So now, right now, I'm just jumping once a week and building up the jump reps slowly. So I'm not adding any more reps than 5 a week, right? And then I might build that up to be able to do 50 jumps and be able to recover from that fine. And then once I get to that point, then I'll slowly start adding a second session rather than rushing, trying to add a second session in out of nowhere, then like fucking my body up because I can't recover fast enough, right? If I was 18, I could probably get away with that, but right now I
Yeah.
can't, you know?
Right. Right.
So like, I don't know if you found that as well.
Uh, yeah, that's totally like unique and different from me. I mean, I have to listen to my body for sure too, and so I do level with you on that perspective. But it's just interesting to hear like your problem is actually that you pushed too much, and for a lot of people, I know that is like their issue. But that's something cool about like JumpX like training. I feel like is you guys, specialize the programs. Like if anything, like I think like one thing, I don't know, that we're hearing is, athletes are different. And so you have to kind of like schedule their programming for individuals differently, which I feel like you guys do for the most part.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. It's like
Tom, what about you? You got any secrets to your success?
I think I'm more on the side of Austin in terms of, having to like rein myself back in. Um, yeah, so I definitely could like easily overdo it. Like a lot of times I'll finish a gym session and be like, damn, wish I could do more. Like
Yeah.
only because I want to get better. Like I actually just genuinely enjoy it. I'm just there like, oh, I wish I could do another set of squats. But long term, is it the best thing to do? Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but like when I do my dunk sessions, like a lot of times I'll keep going until I basically can't dunk anymore. Like because I don't want it to end because I'm like that's like the best time of my week. Do you guys find yourself in that same position or do you guys know how to cut it off pretty well?
so like I don't feel like that every session. Like there's some sessions where my energy isn't as high, and like I just get fatigued because I've jumped that many times, and like just my vert drops off to where it's just not productive anymore. It's just I'm just repping bad reps that aren't going to get me anywhere, and it's just fatiguing me. It's almost like junk volume in a sense, right? I feel like that's a good topic to talk about. Like, uh, I feel like once you get to a point in the dunk session where the vert starts to drop off, the reps you're practicing are no longer like quality reps, and you're almost practicing bad technique. That's when you need to stop, right?
Yeah.
That's one point you need to stop because you're not going to get better at that point. It's just junk volume, jump reps at that point. Like you're not getting better. You're just practicing bad technique, right? Like reps that aren't quality, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like as soon as that starts to happen, you should cut the session because you're just fatiguing yourself at that point and risking knee pain at that point, and you're going to recover slowly and probably impact your training the next week because you're not going to recover properly from that session because you overjumped, right? In saying that, it takes a huge amount of discipline to do that because we all love jumping, right? We all have
Hmm.
problems cutting that point off, but
Hmm.
like even as a coach and Tom as well, we have to tell ourselves that as well. You know, we're humans, we deal with the same things. All our athletes do as well. So we have to hold ourselves accountable as well to ensure that doesn't happen. But the other point is injury, right? So like if you
Yeah.
know these extra jump reps is going to get you injured, you
Yeah.
can have knee pain the next day, then you're just being stupid at that point. You need to stop jumping because you need to ask yourself, like, look, is me doing these extra 20 attempts, is that going to stop me jumping next week, or is that going to impact my jump session next week? If the answer is
Yeah.
yes, then you need to stop. Because that
Yeah.
you're not because you're thinking of now, you're not thinking of long term, and dunking is a long term thing. If you're always thinking of the short term, then you're just not going to progress as fast. You would progress faster having a shorter session that day, not getting injured, practicing quality reps, and then having another quality session the next week, rather than over jumping that session, getting knee pain, then not be able to jump as much the next session, then having to rehab the knee pad a little bit. You're going to progress slower at that point. So that's where it's important to recognize those things as a dunker, a jumper. Ensure you're keeping those things in mind and you're going to progress faster that way. And that's something I have to constantly tell myself as well, you know, like with training, jumping, all that to ensure I don't get injured as well.
I'm gonna definitely take that away from this call. I guess I'll probably cut it slightly shorter after hearing your perspective on that. Because you're kind of right, but it's always a balance. Like you're always trying to weigh the pros and cons. Something that John Evans said, like this last dunk camp, that kind of stuck with my head is never go two steps back. Um, and so I'm always thinking about that. I guess when I'm lifting and stuff, like I want to push myself, but not to the point where I basically could get injured. Because as we all know, once you get injured, like it takes a while to get back usually.
It destroys progress, man. It
Yeah.
destroys progress. Like literally, like it's just like it's not worth it. Like the times I've progressed the most with my jumping and dunking is the times where I went through periods where I didn't have any injuries and wasn't dealing with anything, you know? So, and
Hmm.
obviously sometimes things happen, sometimes you just can't help it. But the more you can reduce those things from happening, the faster you're going to progress, especially in the long term. All right. So, yeah, because you just plateau if you're injured. But, um, okay. So, your training, like, what are you squatting at the moment? Like, what are your numbers at the moment? Like, what sort of training exactly do you do? Like, I mean, I'm intrigued by that because you don't post a lot about that stuff too. Because you train yourself at the moment, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, my wife is also pinging me.
All good, bro.
Yeah, so this is gonna probably drive you guys nuts. Because I'm thinking of everything in pounds. And I know you guys don't, so that's going to be kind of tough, but maybe, um, I don't know, maybe it'll bring in some more of the US audience, I guess. But, and like, I'm sure you guys probably know some like rough math to like get metrics in the same line. But, um, I have I've squatted 395. I'm also a big fan of the trap bar deadlift. So I try to lift heavy every so often, but I also try to lift fast. I listened to a THP podcast with like a hammer thrower, and he was talking about like basically power cleaning as much weight as he could, but was still having it under a second. And so I've implemented that. So like I'll power clean like 185 in like less than a second for a couple of reps and like do that for a couple of sets. I feel like that's been huge, just that like intent of moving the weight is fast also. So not just like as much weight as you can do all the time. And then also I think like sprinting, especially like as you get older, like if you're not sprinting, you're gonna kind of lose that fast twitch. That's usually the first thing to go. So I try to improve on that. So like my 40-yard dash when I started was just over 5. And now like I've gotten it to 4.8 seconds, which that's pretty solid, I feel. Improving like at this age for 40-yard dash like that. But yeah, that's some of my things that I do. I also try to do some yoga just to like maintain mobility.
Yeah.
And isometrics for knees, pretty much bottom
Comes it.
line.
You've obviously dealt with knee pain in the past as well, right?
Yeah.
Was it bad or?
So I've had some pretty bad knee pain, like 6 or 7 out of 10, maybe a couple of times. But you hear these horror stories of people who can't walk up and down steps. Like it's never been that bad for me. But yeah, I find like a mix of like isometrics, like when you're recovering, also like prehab, if you will, as well as like some slow strength every once in a while. Seems like the tendons really like that. And then I'm a big fan of collagen protein. I think there's a lot of good research coming out on vitamin C and collagen protein for tendons. And so I try to like make sure that's like in my diet. And I feel like with that being said, I haven't had knee pain in a long while. Like beyond a 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, you couldn't just go walk into the gym and go for a max jump straight away.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I also warm up very slow. That's probably a good thing too, because yeah, I feel like tendons hate if you just try to jump maximally right off the jump.
I don't recommend that for anyone, regardless of your age.
100%. I feel like if you're a dunker and you haven't dealt with knee pain, like are you even a dunker? It's like
right, yeah.
It's just like one of those things. It's just,
and you probably haven't pushed
some point.
yourself hard enough if you don't know that limit, I guess.
Exactly. I would agree with that 100%. Okay, so your future goals, man. What are your goals for dunking? Where do you wanna take it? And I guess how long do you want to dunk for? The rest of your life or
I think at least a year, I'd say. Um, I think at least in another year, if not two, like to the point where I'm pushing myself to be better, if that makes sense. Like I think I'll still like dunking, but maybe I'll just do it more as like a maintenance thing and not necessarily try to jump higher because it is it's taxing as far as like time and energy goes. Like if you're trying to get better, you have to be pushing yourself, right? And so that can take a lot of time, energy, recovery time as well. So like with that being said, I think I want to like try to improve another year or so. Winning a contest was definitely like high up on my goals list. So I cross that off. I'd love to win another one. And then, hitting that East Bay for me is like my dream dunk essentially. And I'm so close. I'd love to hit that on 9-10 or higher. I think I've told Tom that in the past. I think like 9-7 is probably my highest that I've hit it on, I guess, as of right now. But yeah.
that's another interesting thing. You gotta make like to progress as a dunker, you gotta make so many sacrifices in your life. It's not an easy thing.
Right. And if
Vertical.
like you want to start a family or, because
Yeah.
I'm married now or like buy a house, whatever, you got to like focus some time and energy towards that.
exactly, and then it makes it harder to progress at that point. It's like, yeah, it's like it's yeah, it's such a you got to dedicate so much if you want to progress. You know,
Mhm.
especially if like you're not genetically gifted and all that. Like all of
High
us
level,
sitting here, huh?
especially at like the higher levels, like you can probably get away with not being super optimal with your training and all that kind of stuff when you're like first starting out dunking. But as you
Yeah.
get really trying to push for like harder dunks, you know, like E-space and stuff, you can't be half-assing your training, your recovery. You gotta like it's gonna become your lifestyle almost. You gotta like I'm sure you do this, Alex, like you'll plan your whole week around your dunk session.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Every dunker does it.
Yep. Yep. Or if a contest is coming up, then it's like even, to an extreme, I'm planning out everything, right? And I just going off of that, like kind of like as you start, you could basically like do, I don't know, lunges, you probably get better at jumping, like, you know what I mean? Not much effort. But like as I've continued to get better, I've had to like tighten something up, whether like, one year it might be my diet. Okay, I'm doing well on the diet. And now it's like, okay, let's optimize sleep. Let's optimize weightlifting. Like, and so I keep having to somewhat reinvent myself to like build on the habits, and eventually you've got a lot of things that you're doing and it's a lot of energy and focus, right? So
How do you manage that? Because you have a missus as well, right? You guys are married?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you
yeah.
manage that the lifestyle of being a dunker with like your relationship?
It helps that we both work remotely for Starbucks. Um, and so like during the times I'm not dunking, we're kind of together, dunking or training, but because obviously like my training and dunking, like it takes a lot of time away from us together. So that definitely helps. Then I'd say just like being proactive about time management, like scheduling my time out. Like I've got this much time to work on work stuff, this much time to do, I don't know, random things, and this much time to train to dunk basically on a daily basis,
What
which
about
can
in
be tough.
what about in the sense of uh like going on holidays and like doing things like say going for like a very long like bike ride and all that sort of stuff that'll will
Yeah,
impact your progress as a dunker, like especially
yeah,
like set like going like maybe one day she would want to go for a run or all that sort of stuff.
yeah. So like one thing for us is like we have recently liked to hike, and I've noticed that if I go for a long ass hike and try to dunk a day or two later, like it'll be some of my worst sessions. It's just like training opposites, like, it's like
Yeah.
counterproductive a little bit. I would say like I pretty much train a lot. So to the point where it's like if I've got a vacation coming up, I try to just be like, okay, this is a good time to just relax and kind of let certain muscles and tendons heal up a little bit. And I try to just feel good about the fact that I put so much work in that, I can kind of, if we do go on a week vacation or something, I'm able to do that.
Deload.
Which reminds me, as you guys know, I'm flying out to Japan in a little bit here, so I don't have much time, but I'd love to just kind of ask you guys a couple rapid fire questions, maybe quicker with the responses, and then, you know, wrap it up from there if that sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good, man.
Okay, I want to know your guys' dunk goal list.
Should we just go top three?
Yeah,
All right, Austin, you go first if you know your top three.
Top
one, two,
three. What the hell? Well, I know like number one is definitely East-based, so that's like the first thing on my
yeah.
mind. So that's definitely number one. Um, Another two dunks that I want to do. I want to hit I've already hit like a kind of 360 windmill, but like I don't even want to really count it that much because I don't think it was like that nice. So like I'd want to hit like a nice 360 windmill, those two dunks, and then uh, fuck, probably last one, elbow in the rim as well.
Okay.
That's top three.
What
Mm-hmm.
about you?
Probably backboard behind the back backboard under both, and then 360 Vince Carter windmill off lob.
Nice. Okay. Who are your guys' dunk mentors?
Mentors. You mean like people we look up to, or
Yeah.
yeah? I'll go top three again. You think? Go top three.
Yeah. You don't always have to like thinking of three mentors may be tough. Like I'm not gonna dock you if you can only name two. But
I'll play obviously Jordan Kilgannon, Zach,
yeah.
and Brady Stevens.
Nice. Yeah, I loved him on your podcast, by the way. That was one of my favorite ones.
He's cool.
Yeah, I love when he said dunking with a Rubik's Cube, like whatever he had.
Yeah. For me, probably my most immediate one is Tom Barnes. But
Oh, man.
obviously that's an easy answer. Besides that, like I don't know in terms of mentor, but like someone that I guess a dunker that I'd look up to, like probably someone like a similar build to me. He was at the Texas dunk camp. Um, I'm blanking on his name right now. He's a tall guy. Hi? What?
Stephen Hawkins.
Yeah, Donovan Hawkins. I think he's pretty sick.
He
Yeah,
was
That's fun.
killing it.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think he's one of the best in the game right now. So highly underrated, to be honest.
I would agree, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Did you name three?
I named three. Like
Okay.
I don't know. That's tough. Like I guess another point to touch on is like uh early on in our dunking careers, I guess our early mentors would have been the THP boys, John Evans and Isaiah, because I know Tom trained with THP for quite a long time, and I did them for a while as well. So they
Tom,
definitely
you're a big fan of Selly too, right?
Of
yeah.
course, Stephen Furley, the man.
Yeah.
He's like the beginning of a lot of people's dunk journeys.
Yeah, I still enjoy watching some of his videos.
Yeah, the old vlogs and
Okay, I gotta ask you guys, what are your favorite lifts or plyos for increasing vert? Top three.
sprint.
Top three: squat, sprinting, jumping. If I could only pick three
Nice.
exercises to improve my, if I could only pick three exercises to improve my vertical, it would be those three: squatting, sprinting, jumping.
Yep.
Like when I say jumping, like dunking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tom.
Mine were going to be the exact same three.
It's like here's the thing, right? A lot of people don't realize that's how you get 90% of the results. That's literally 90%, maybe not 90, maybe like 80% of your results right there. Those three exercises.
Can I ask you guys, like, do you squat in any way that's like a little different, or like what do you guys focus on for a squat?
It needs to be somewhat quadricep dominant.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
like for
I
a
love
2 foot approach jump, like when this is like I'm talking like 2 foot right now, like those exercises. Like for a 2 foot
Yeah.
approach jump, like your quadriceps are the like one of the muscle groups that are I
Yeah.
no the your quadriceps are activated the most throughout 2 foot approach jump, right? So they need to be emphasized. Like not saying your hips and stuff are not important, but for a 2 foot approach jump, very often someone will go away, not jump for a while, then come back and jump. What's the main muscle group that's sore? Quads, always upper quads. So like high bar squat, knees forward, hitting the most depth you can without injuring yourself or forcing a position. Definitely that exercise.
All right, I got one more for you guys. Who are the JumpX athletes that are currently like really impressing you or inspiring you right now?
Stevie is up there.
Yeah, Stevie Dunks. He's gone insane recently. Like
Yeah,
I keep following him.
he's good. He's really good.
Yeah.
Pretty up there. Um I don't know if we can talk about this, but he's a JumpX athlete now, Tom. Uh,
Hardly Human.
yeah, he's one for sure. But also, I don't know if I should say it right now. I guess I can say it right now because this podcast is going to come out before, afterwards. But
Yeah, yeah.
uh, Dylan Hagen is pretty inspiring.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so,
he when I posted that picture where I did like a sticker of Austin so I could make us all three in one pick
yeah,
on my story the other day, he hit me up like right away. That's funny. He's always messaging me. He's really cool. And yeah, he's gotten so much better. It's crazy. So that's
yeah.
awesome.
And I'm so keen to see him progress like crazy. Like if he's 15 East Bang right now, like man.
But I also want to say, Sam Thornley, if we're just talking like since they started with JumpX, Sam Thornley has come a long way.
Nice.
Yeah, because he went from like what hitting, well, struggling to hit basic dunks, right, Tom, to like East Bang.
Best dunk was like a baby tomahawk.
Nice.
Now we can like East Bay, left like right leg for his left leg. Yeah.
There's heaps of other guys too, man. Like there's so many guys that are such good athletes that work hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's difficult to pick just a few,
Yeah.
because like they all inspire me in their own way in terms of their strengths and what they do. Like just another one, like Stanley, um,
Yeah, yeah.
29, and bro, like his recovery is like LeBron level. He's like he's doing the most insane like recovery stuff. It's like it just makes me feel like
It's
I'm like not doing enough, but
Yeah.
like,
like getting massages and
like
stuff.
he's doing like experiment, like he's doing the most experimental like he's doing he's like nailing all the basics like nutrition, sleep, but he's just doing like all this like crazy extra stuff like that I've never heard of. I'm like, what the fuck?
Can you give one? Do you have one that comes to mind?
He
Uh,
uses like it's like this ultrasound therapy. He's got like a gun, like a little gun. Does like
Okay.
a big ultrasound thing on his ankle because he rolled. It
Okay.
didn't roll his ankle, but he hurt like his heel bone. So he's got like a weird bone bruise. So he's just doing that kind of stuff.
Nice.
like cryotherapy, normal tech boots every day. Like,
I will say it's like so fun like watching your guys' dunk sessions, like how you guys just have like basically a whole event. It seems like every Saturday. It makes me want to fly out there and join you, to be honest.
well, like you say that, right? But it looks like you have the same thing, dude. Like watching your YouTube and Instagram posts and stuff, and like
Yeah.
Dunk with pros pretty regularly too, which is awesome as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 or 6 guys. You guys have like a whole army out there, it seems like sometimes. But yeah, I think like being in that environment obviously can hype you up a little bit, as we've talked about already.
You definitely improve more in these environments than if you were just to do it by yourself because you're always pushing, pushing, pushing.
For
all right,
sure. Hey, I gotta run to my flight, but I just want to say like thank you so much for inviting me out to your podcast. Like I've been a big fan. I love listening to them, and just appreciate that you guys like were willing to have me out on it. That's awesome.
no worries, man. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, and we'll have to definitely do it again sometime, man.
Yes,
Maybe Dunk Camp next year. We'll do one in person.
sir. That'd
Yeah,
be tight.
we gotta fly out like earlier and like start doing more
Yeah,
classes. with people.
you guys do.
So,
I mean, feel free to come out to LA too. We can, get some pros out here and have you guys out. That'd be
dude, that'd
sick.
be sick, man. That'd be sick doing like an LA like dunk session and being in that sort of environment. Cause like we see it on like YouTube like all the time, or like
Yeah.
Instagram all the time. And I feel like it'd just be surreal. Like obviously it's like a normal thing for you, but like like a lot of guys like when we're coming up and early on, like would always see like all the pros and stuff do LA fitness sessions and like all dunk in LA at other places and stuff. And it'd just be awesome to be in that sort of environment and do that. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah,
Well,
man,
thanks, guys.
no problems, no problems.
All right. Yeah. Excited to hopefully hear this one soon.
For sure,
Yes,
man.
sir. Later. Much love, guys. Peace.